Hi, my name's Allie. I'm a singer-songwriter here in Honolulu. Welcome to my lifestyle channel. I'm currently on a hike, kind of close to where I live, but it's a hike that I normally do pretty often. So I've done this several times, possibly over 100 times, but it's a really nice place. It's not very crowded. It's not a touristy place. I haven't seen anyone else on this hike so far, and it's also a really safe hike. It's not incredibly long, but it's long enough. So it's really beautiful. I just love, it's such a grounding thing to go out in nature. And sometimes if I have the time, I take my shoes off and, get my feet on the earth. That's a really grounding thing to do because it just really helps you ground and connect to the earth and release, things that you need to release. So, and also the sounds of the birds are really calming, the sounds of the wind, seeing all this greenery, it's just so beautiful. On this channel, one of my goals is to bring people along on this journey of my life, and it's really important for me to share things that I've learned that helps me and share that with other people, because I find that really meaningful. So the biggest thing that I've ever had to heal from and the hardest thing that I've ever gone through in my life was my childhood experience. And so when I became an adult, I started studying psychology in college and I started seeing therapists, and I was just trying to figure out how to heal from the things that I went through. And it really wasn't easy. And one of the things that keeps me going is that I will never ever be in that situation again. As an adult, we have options to leave any situation or anyone that's hurting us emotionally, psychologically, even physically, if it's that extreme. But there's options. And so as a child, it was really hard because I was in a situation where I lived in complete fear, and I had to repress myself and who I was, and it was just a really stressful, difficult situation, and I didn't have the support or the care or the compassion that I needed in order to feel emotionally safe. It was hard to understand what was happening. I experienced a lot of just like emotional, verbal violence, if you will. That's why I'm taking courses on nonviolent communication to learn what healthy communication is. I guess from a neurological perspective, one of the biggest things that I experienced as a child was just being in a consistent state of fear and anxiety and scared, like if I make a wrong move, like if I'm going to get yelled at or someone's going to explode at me. So I was tiptoeing around the emotions of other people and doing my best to keep myself safe so that I could survive my situation. And once I became an adult, I realized that my nervous system didn't change. I might have been removed from the environment, but I was conditioned so much to live in a certain way, to feel in a certain way, that it got carried along with me. And so the extreme states of chronic stress that I was in got brought with me as an adult. And so it affected all areas of my life. And my biggest goal in my life was to heal from that, because if you don't heal from that, you just live in constant fear, constant anxiety, and it's a state that you don't want to be in. It's survival mode is what it really is. And a lot of people live this way as well. And I think one of the biggest ways to address the situation is to spread awareness about it. And so, today I'm not going to go into anything descriptive of the things that I went through. It's really important to talk about, to address the feelings that you experienced and to really validate your experiences in order to move forward. Oh, the wind sounds really pretty right now. But it wasn't until maybe my mid-20s that I learned more about, like, you know, you can change the state that you came from. And I didn't know that. I thought that forever I would be stuck in this fear mindset, in this like survival mindset, in this I'm not good enough mindset, in this I can never express myself mindset. I thought I was stuck there as a young adult. And in my mid-20s, you know, there's people coming out like Joe Dispenza, Greg Braden, Tice Gibson, you know, she's the attachment style woman, but people giving me hope on YouTube. YouTube is like a university. It's really awesome. You can study anything you want there, but giving me hope that I could change and I could live a life that's completely different. And I could change the way that I operate in this world so that I can attract for myself new life and new things. And I didn't have to experience the amount of fear that I was experiencing and have things play out in my life the same way. But as a young adult, I was really set on, you know, learning new experiences. So I think in future vlogs, I definitely want to talk about more of my travels. I went to one of the places that I traveled to. I saved up my own money. I saved up money to go to India. I wanted to become a yoga instructor because as a teenager, I discovered yoga. Around when I was 14, I had friends talking about something called yoga, and then I was at a store and I saw these videos like, you know, teaching you how to do yoga. So I bought the videos and I would just play them and I would do yoga in my room. And it was really helpful for me. And I was in extracurriculars. That was extremely helpful for me as a kid. But so going back to when I was a young adult, trying to figure out like how to heal, I initially actually wanted to study like plants and the healing medicinal purposes of plants, because I really do believe in that. And I thought I wanted to like have a farm and live on a farm. So I actually worked for a farm, and then I traveled and went to New Zealand and did some woofing there. If you don't know what woofing is, it's in exchange for accommodation. You can work on people's farms and their gardens or whatever they have available for you. So it's kind of a work-stay trade, where you trade labor for a place to stay. So I did that. And yeah, my travels were really healing to me because I got to be exposed to different people, and during my travels I experienced like the most like love, and like I finally felt like I could feel at home in places that were not my home, because I grew up constantly being told like this is not your house. Like I constantly felt so uncomfortable where I was living, and so just so unsafe emotionally. So travel was really healing for me. So going back to when I started talking about India, I went to a yoga training in India also to try to heal my nervous system, I was trying to form a consistent practice. I think that's one of the hardest things, is to have consistency with your practice. So it was great because this, you know, at the school we would practice every morning, and we would practice in the afternoon, and then we had meditation in the evening, and we had a philosophy study right after lunch, philosophy of yoga. And so I got to learn about yogic principles. One of the other ways I tried to heal was, so I had booked a ticket to Peru because ever since I was little, I always wanted to see the Amazon jungle. I had an Amazon book when I was in 5th grade. I bought it from a book fair at school, and I was like, oh, this is so pretty, like all the animals and all the jungle. So I got to do that for myself. And when I was in Peru, actually before I went to Peru, people started talking to me about this thing called ayahuasca. And you could go, and it's like you drink this like tea that's made from a vine, and it can heal you. Actually, like it was put in, it can help with your healing, but it was put to me in a way that like, oh yeah, this will definitely help with, you know, healing childhood trauma and healing with the things that I was willing to do anything. Like, yeah, if that could, because my body, oh my gosh, like my body was so tense. It was like so extremely tense. Like everybody would tell me that. I couldn't really afford to do like a ton of massages or body work or anything like that, but whenever I did, it was just like, they would just tell me like, you are so tense, like you cannot relax. Like, and I did a one where they, you know, you roll on the ball, like a session with somebody that I knew who was teaching this method where you roll on a ball and fix your alignment and stuff like that. I think it actually really helped. But yeah, she was telling me about the ayahuasca. I had someone else telling me about it, and so I started doing research, and I was pretty confident about it. I booked a retreat, and it was a 10-day retreat in the jungle. So you had to take a boat, and it was with a bunch of people. So with a bunch of other people who are just like me, who are also traveling to do this ayahuasca in search of some kind of healing. So, let me take a seat for a little bit. Okay. Actually, I don't like this lighting. Let me turn around. Actually, you know, I can also go to the end and see. I've been to the end several times, but I can make it all the way to the end and then I'll turn around. So yeah, I did this ayahuasca retreat, and luckily I made it out alive, as many people do. You do want to be careful though. I probably don't recommend it. I don't recommend other people doing it that way, like just going to another country by yourself and getting on a boat with a bunch of people and drinking this thing that makes you hallucinate. I probably don't recommend that to most people, but I was willing to do anything if I could heal from all the pain that I was experiencing, like chronically, because of the environment that I came from. So with the ayahuasca, yeah, a lot of things were brought up. I was re-experiencing a lot of really painful emotions that I had experienced from when I was 9-10 years old, like throughout the hardest times in my life. It was about when I was 10 years old, 12 years old, middle school. Those are really hard. High school got a little bit easier because you become more independent in high school, and I don't know, just having friends and more time to like get away from the situation that I was in was really helpful for me. But yeah, so I relived a bunch of trauma. I hallucinated all these different things, and I won't get too descriptive or anything, but I did find, I did feel a sense of peace after I did it. I wasn't scared or anything. I wasn't really scared. I actually had a good experience. I felt pretty safe where I was. We were free to journal and swim in the Amazon, and it was really cool. So I had a pretty positive experience. We did like 5 nights of this ayahuasca ceremonies. It's like a really bitter tea that's made from a natural vine, and it's mixed with something called chacruna that activates the DMT. So yeah, it's supposedly, people say that it gives you the experience that you need to have. So I had both things come up for me to process. So things were really hard, but it was also embedded with really positive experiences. So I also experienced a lot of positive things, a lot of comfort, a lot of like love, a lot of hope, things that I had experiences that gave me emotions that I never felt before, of feeling empowered and confident, because I did not feel that way growing up at all. I didn't have a lot of emotional support. I didn't have a lot of positivity. I didn't have a lot of praise. I didn't have a lot of like encouragement. A lot of it was me being scared of like, being blamed on things, or if if I made a wrong move or put something away the wrong way, I was just terrified of like what was going to happen all the time. So I stayed in my room for most of my childhood. And so, yeah, emotionally, I didn't have that support. I just had to deal with it as a child. And what happens when that happens, when you don't have an adult to really be there for your emotions, and instead, if your emotions are like shunned away, like, you know, people telling me to stop crying and to be this way and act this way instead of feeling how I felt, all that gets stuck, and it just becomes like stuck trauma in your body that will come out later. So yeah, it's been a really long journey with healing from the things that I've needed to heal from. And it's definitely a responsibility to do that so that I don't affect other people in the same ways that I was affected. And fast forward to now, and I'm still trying to heal from a lot of painful things that I've experienced in my earlier life. And it's still a journey, and I'm still in therapy for it, and I'm still figuring out new ways to heal myself. And that's why I started learning about taking an interest to nonviolent communication. And one thing that I have found so effective, even before I studied nonviolent communication, I was basically in my mid-20s, and I realized that, like, okay, I'm still reliving so much of what I went through when I was a kid. I need to stop and isolate myself from everyone and anything, because I was still attracting experiences that were kind of recreating the experiences that I went through as a child. And one of the biggest game changers was, I think it was, hearing Joe Dispenza talk about, like, you can use your mind to change your belief systems. A lot of it is about our belief systems. And when we grew up, so the average person, he says, has 70-something% negative belief systems about themselves. So when we have negative, it doesn't always have to be about yourself, but it's like things like, I don't deserve like wealth, I don't deserve like safety, I don't deserve, a lot of us, it's a subconscious thing. We don't consciously tell ourselves these things in our minds, but these are all subconscious things. And so he says the average person has 70-something% of their belief systems are negative. And so if you went through adverse experiences, imagine going through, experiences that are more difficult than the average person, then you're going to have so much more, you might be at like 90-something percent negative belief systems. So you got to change that if you want to change your life, if you want to live a better life and not live in anxiety and terror and all these emotions that you came from when you were a child that were embedded into you. You have to change that. And it takes a lot of time, and it takes a lot of honesty with yourself, and it takes a lot of looking at yourself and trying to identify your belief systems first and foremost, and then changing them. And so that's why earlier on in this channel, I actually have some affirmations that I made. I made them. I would speak into the microphone. I would write them down and then speak into the microphone, and I would play music with them. So you're welcome to check those out from like a couple years ago. And a lot of those affirmations were things that I needed to help myself. When we're able to access a meditative state, that's the best time to embed those belief systems in it, because if we just tell ourselves things, it doesn't always go through. It doesn't always get through. There's a woman named, side note, there's a woman named Marissa Peer who I found really helpful too. She is a counselor, she's a therapist, and she realized that with most of her clients, with almost everyone, we have the belief system that we are not enough. So her biggest mantra is, I am enough. If everybody felt that they were enough, it's a game changer for your life and for the world. And also, when we experience adverse things in childhood, when we didn't get the support that we needed, we didn't have the emotional availability, when we grew up in ways that were or really difficult, we're more likely to become somebody that spreads that, and it's just statistically, it doesn't mean that, some of us, everyone deals with it in different ways. Some people act out, some people internalize. And so most people are good people, and most people are not here to cause other people pain. But people will act out of their own pain if they don't heal it. So, it's really important, I think, that if you know that you went through a lot of painful things as a kid, if you don't want your kid to go through that, to change yourself first. So where was I? I talked about Marissa Peer as a side note, trying to use positive affirmations. A really big one was to just get my body to relax in the first place. Because if you went through a lot of adverse experiences as a child, you have a hard time relaxing, just in general. Like, you would never feel relaxed, and it's not likely that you feel safe, you'll naturally feel safe. So to create that peace and safety within yourself, I think is really important. It is really important if you do want to heal. So just positive affirmations, like, trying to relax your body and telling yourself, I am safe. I'm loved. And you don't have to have, okay, so one of the biggest things Joe Dispenza was saying, you have to act as if, so you have to imagine the life that you want, right? If you want to live a life where you're loved, like everyone loves you, and you feel that from people. If you want to live a life that, you have abundance and you have enough for yourself, you can provide for yourself. If you want to live, if you want certain things, you have to try to create the emotions of those things. So it's like, how would I feel if I knew that I was loved by people? If I knew that, how would I feel if I had enough? If I always knew that I had enough, like how does that feeling, and it changes because, a lot of us go around in a lack mentality, and we feel like I'll never have enough, and then we keep repeating that same vibration, and it doesn't allow us to expand. So yeah, I tried, I basically became like a hermit for several years, actually. From my mid-20s, I really was so dedicated. I was at the point where I wanted to become a monk, but it was better for me to work. It was better for me to work and live my life, and do my healing on my own time. So I did, and I was lucky enough to have the circumstances for me to do that. So I feel really blessed about that I got to take some time to do that. So I spent a lot of time just trying to relax in my body and trying to feel safe for the first time. And then I knew that I wanted to step up my fitness game, and I knew that exercise would help me move through things as well. I think there's a balance with that. So I started getting more into exercising and trying to be more consistent with that. And so, yeah, there's definitely a balance. So now I'm trying to balance those two things, making enough time to process my feelings. Nonviolent communication, one of the big things is that you process your feelings. So, whenever, if we were yelled at as a kid, that person that yelled at us, they were way above a 6, out of 1 through 10, on a scale of 1 through 10. When someone's at that point, they're pretty high on that scale. So with nonviolent communication, one of the principles is that if you're at a 6 or above, you do not reach out to anybody. You take that time and you process your own feelings, because if you were someone that was blamed a lot as a kid, which I was, we all know that angry people want to look for somebody to blame. And we've all done that ourselves too. So when someone's angry, and if they have the awareness that, hey, I'm angry, I'm way above a 6, I'm on the scale, emotionally, I'm really up there. If we take the time to process that, because any feeling that we feel is our own feeling. That's one of the principles of nonviolent communication. Anything that we feel is ours. And a lot of where the violence comes is that we project that feeling onto somebody else. It's like the kicking the dog syndrome, you know, you're dealing with all your own angry emotions that you haven't processed and released in your life, and it just comes out on the dog, unfortunately. I mean, I hope that doesn't happen. I mean, I know it does, unfortunately, but you know what I'm trying to say. So yeah, I'm learning more about, you know, how to become a healthier person, and my goal is to share that with other people. And one of my big goals too is to reach out to the younger crowd and anybody who's going through like similar things that I went through as a kid. And because there's no manual, like there's no there's no way to understand what's happening like while it's happening. And so I wrote a book in 2021. I wrote a book, and this book is geared to helping teens and preteens with how to deal with if they're going through at home, like whether it's emotional neglect, abuse, or like different types of abuses and stuff like that. And I wrote a book that I would love to one day get published and get into school systems and stuff. And I'd really like to work with a publisher if possible, because I just want to get it out there. I don't care as much about like owning all the money and all the rights to it. Well, I mean, obviously I should be owning the rights to it if I wrote it, but I just want more information to get out there, especially to kids, because I've worked with kids for a lot of my life, and I know that there's, you know, other people experiencing similar things and worse things, and I've seen it, and it's really heartbreaking. And I know how common it is, because if everybody came from a loving, caring environment, which I know that some people did, but if more people came from that, there would be less crime, there would be less chaos in society, there wouldn't be like this greed with the people in power, because everybody would feel like they have enough, that they are enough. And if more positive belief systems were instilled into us, then the world would be a healthier place. And it's currently not the healthiest place right now. And so I think as individuals, it's our job to try our best to create the healthy place that we want, because even though we came from a lot of hard things, it's our responsibility to change. Because I know it's so cliche, but you know, like Gandhi, like the change starts with us, like it starts within ourselves. So if we want to experience peace, we have to create peace. And that's not always easy, especially if we didn't come from a peaceful place. So yeah, I found music as a way to cope with all the stress that I was dealing with, because I was in stressful jobs right after college. I chose to do jobs that were really stressful. I was a crisis worker, and I worked with autistic kids, and I think it was mostly the crisis worker job that was like way more stressful, because it was on call and phone calls and emergency room, and having to be certain places in the middle of the night, just waking up in the middle of the night, getting an alarm, and having to go and try to help people. And so that's when I bought my ukulele, and I started learning how to play music, because I would listen to this other YouTuber, this music YouTuber, Gabrielle Applin. I think she's got over 1 million followers now, but she was just starting when I found her on YouTube. This was back in the day. And she was so inspiring. She's around my age, and she was really inspiring because I loved her voice. She had a similar voice to me, a similar kind of style. So she was someone that inspired me. So I learned how to play the ukulele and started writing songs, and I think it was so healing and so rewarding for me that I was just like, I think I'm gonna do music. So that was the beginning of wanting to do music. And I did bring my ukulele all over the world with me when I traveled to different places in the world. And I got such positive feedback from people that I was like, I have to do this. So I worked really hard. I bought a guitar in 2016, and I just had to work really hard on being able to express myself. I used to have I struggled a lot with being able to express myself because of the experiences I went through. When I was a kid, I didn't feel safe to express myself. So it was really a struggle for me to perform in front of people. I would get so much anxiety, like I would have panic attacks while I was in front of people trying to sing, because it's so raw and vulnerable to do that. And that's part of the reason why I took, so many years to try to, that's one of the reasons why I took so many years to try to heal myself, because I wanted to be able to sing. So in order to do that, and because my throat, my vocals would get so tense, like my chest and my throat. One of the biggest things that I experienced is like growing up, I felt a lot of like constriction, from like being scared and things like that. But I felt a lot of constriction in my chest and my throat, and so I walked around with constant like throat tension. And so singing is almost like the antithesis of that, right? So I had to get to a place where I didn't have so much throat constriction, where I wasn't hurting my vocal cords, where I could relax enough to where I can sing comfortably, and I finally got there, and it was such a journey to be able to get to that point. One of my biggest takeaways is that if you did have a really difficult experience as a child, where you felt scared a lot, where you felt constricted, where you couldn't be yourself, where things, you weren't given the support and the love and the kindness that you needed in order to get through life, where you had to be really independent, where you had to take care of yourselves, that comes with a lot of stress and, all that fear. And the biggest thing is that when you're an adult, you'll never have to go through that same kind of pain ever, because that pain of in order to survive, you have to be a certain way. You have to follow someone else's, you have to walk on eggshells around someone else's emotions. You have to constantly be on edge about okay, what am I going to do wrong next? What am I going to get yelled at for next? That fear, when you're an adult, you never have to be in that situation ever again, because you're an adult and you can create your circumstances so that you're not subjected to that anymore. Even if there are people that come into your life that remind you of that situation that you used to be in when you were a kid, you can leave. As an adult, you have the option to get a job, to support yourself, to not be subjected, not be stuck anywhere. You're not stuck anymore. So I think that's one of the biggest things to remember. Another really big thing is that as an adult, no one else's opinion about your life matters more than yours. So as an adult, this is your life, and you have the choice to do with it what you want to do with it. And I hope it's a positive choice, but whatever choice you choose, that's yours, and no one else's opinion matters anymore. So self-autonomy is something that, I struggled with having when I was a kid. It's I had to go by what someone else wanted, but as an adult, you get to be who you want. You get to do what you want. And you're not having to rely on anyone else to feed you. So I just want to encourage anybody watching this to follow your heart. And even if you're not an adult yet, and if you're watching this, follow your heart and do whatever you can. For me, I I joined theater when I was in high school, and anything creative was really important to me. And I discovered dance, and I minored in dance in college. Initially I wanted to become a dance therapist because I felt how powerful dance was. Dance was so powerful because it's a way to express with your body, and what I was lacking was, self-expression. Like I felt like I had to hide myself, and with dance I could, use my body to express myself, and it was one of the most empowering things, and it's one of the biggest releases. So yeah, if you've ever wanted to try dance, I encourage you to do that. So I did theater, dance, and then I just ended up on music. So that was my journey. But everyone has a little bit of a different journey. But I just encourage, no matter how big or small it is, I just encourage anybody to follow their heart and believe in what you desire. So if you've always wanted something in your life, just don't give up hope on it, and do whatever you can to feel as safe as you can now with what you already have. And gratitude is a really important one, just to be grateful for everything that you've already created for yourself in your life, everything that you have now, because the more that you can feel safe and feel grateful for what you have now, the more you'll be able to open up to new things. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. And I just wanted to share these things because they're important to me, and it's ways that I've wanted to connect. I've always wanted to connect with people in this way of sharing my journey, because I know that there's people that are going to be able to relate to this. And if it helps one person, just one person, that's all that really matters to me. So yeah, thank you for watching. Please subscribe if you want to see more. I'm going to try to figure out, still trying to figure out what's going on with this channel, but I think I'm just going to follow my heart and make the videos that I want to make when I want to make them. So if you haven't checked out my music channel, I'm a singer-songwriter. Please check it out. Currently I'm doing a lot of live streams. I'll be posting more videos as well when I have the time to do that. But yeah, please subscribe to my channels. Ali_Sky. That's this channel. That's the what's it called? Username for this channel. The other one is ali.sky.music, I believe. So, or ali.sky.music. Something like that. But I'm gonna finish this hike. And thanks for coming along with me, and I wish you lots of healing and lots of blessings, and I hope that you're able to feel safe and loved. And I know how hard it can be to feel that way if that's not where you came from. So for you guys, take care of yourselves, and until next time.